Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about the official trailer that came out today at the time of recording this for the Uncharted movie. If you haven't seen it already, I'll include a link to it in the description down below. But obviously this, I really enjoyed the trailer. I think it really gave us a taste of what the movie is, which obviously that in itself kind of lends itself to it, because it's, it is a very a treasure hunting adventure movie, which there's been plenty of them, because obviously it's like, oh, there's already been an Uncharted movie. It's the 4 previous Indiana Jones movies or the Lara Croft movies. So it's like, I still think that, yes, I think that could be an argument some people make, but I still think there's enough in this trailer to really give you not just names, but feels and vibes of I think it really resonates as an Uncharted. It feels like Uncharted to me, but maybe that's just me putting a little bit too much into it. But because there's even that section near the end of the trailer where he falls out the plane and all that cargo's there and he's unconscious and he's his foot is latched onto the cargo. Yeah, that could happen in any action movie, but just in the sense of what Uncharted is, that feels like such an Uncharted sequence. It's going to be a movie set piece moment, but it's it feels like that when it comes to Uncharted, because I'm sure that's also, I know that's a complaint for some people when it comes to Uncharted games, that they're very very cinematic in their own right. So translating that to a movie is already going to be a whole thing, because it's right, this looks cool, but I remember when I played it, that's always the complicated thing of making something like this, which is very parkour adventure, just leaping and stuff like all that. It's yeah, I remember the traversal of the game. I'd rather play the game than watch the movie. That's an argument some people can make, and I totally understand that, but it's still I don't know, seeing him
climb up the cargo while being chased, I'm oh yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the train sequence in Uncharted 2. So but it feels like such a those feel just Nathan Drake specific situations to be in. Kind of speaking of the story too, obviously I knew we were dealing with a younger Nate and a younger Sully, and at first I was thinking in my head, I was why is there no Elena? It's of course, because this is a younger him, and yeah, he was young-ish in, well, I mean, comparison to how old he is in 4 to 1, obviously, but this is him even younger. So I wonder, would this technically timeline-wise be him a couple years after the younger sequences of him in Uncharted 4? Because I know there was a sequence, you got a younger version of him in 3, which that version in 3, we saw with how he met Sully. Granted, he meets Sully under very different circumstances in this case, but... And I don't think this also the treasure they're after isn't from the first game. It's just, I think it's just an original story they're making, but it feels it could... It's with the exception of some of the Sully and Nate stuff, I feel this could just be seen as this is an adventure that took place before Uncharted 1, because obviously Nate and Sully have been through a lot, because I'm pretty sure that wasn't their first expedition or adventure. At least it's been a while, so I don't think it was, but it's obviously the games are the 4 big adventures that Nate has been on, and then but there's so many in between, you just hear about the bigger ones, which are the games themselves. I just think that's interesting. They even set up the story to be his brother is leaving him cute clues, which I'm there's enough left in Sam and Nate's history, enough is left open, from them being teenagers to them being adults, that's empty, so you could fill that in. I mean, it doesn't have to fit within the narrative of the games, but it's not that story, there's story in that time frame that could just be oh, you can kind of make up and do whatever you want to, without it being too out of the realm of possibilities, but making it so oh, going after this treasure is important to Nate, because by going after it, he can potentially find his brother in all of this too. So there was that element to it as well. Maybe his brother went looking for this treasure and went missing. So I don't know, I thought that was kind of an interesting element, considering Nate and Sam's circumstances. We dive heavily into how they got to where they are in the 4th Uncharted game. So that's just interesting. But just aside from what we see, and just obviously this is a young Nathan Drake, which Nathan fumbles his way through a lot of stuff in his own right. But it's also seeing Sully kind of teaching him from the beginning, I think is kind of something we don't really get to see, because by the time we get introduced to them, yeah, Victor's always been a mentor to him, but by then, Nate's already kind of a little bit, he's doing this a while, so, obviously we see Nathan doing most of the crazy stuff, and I'm curious are we going, since this is a younger Sully, will we see him do it? He's had his moments, but cinematically you don't get to see, but video game wise, he everything Nate does he typically can as well. Granted, this is a much older Sullivan we deal with as the games progress, so. But
Antonio Banderas as the bad guy. Didn't know he was in this movie, so that's pretty interesting. There was a lady that was like, Nate's like, oh, I'm a friend of Sully's, and she's like, Sully doesn't have any friends. At first I was like, is that Chloe? Interesting if she was Chloe, because it's interesting because you don't meet Chloe until the second game in the series, so if that's her, I think that's kind of fascinating, you know, but it might just be an original character for this story. But I mean, just looks fun and adventurous, and just I personally get a little that Uncharted feel and vibe from it, but maybe that's just me. It seems pretty interesting, just, you know, just my thoughts alone. But obviously this is just some of the stuff going through my head. I'd love to get to know your thoughts. What are some things you expect to see from the movie? What are some things you want to see from the movie? Also in general, like, are you excited about the Uncharted movie? It's always been in that, like, purgatory. Like, it's been one of those films that's kind of been in purgatory for a while, but now it's finally gotten made and it's coming out apparently in February. So just let me know your thoughts. Were you someone that was sold on the idea of the movie before? Did this trailer sell you on it? Yes, no? I'd love to know your thoughts. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.